Hi guys, Gilly Hunt here, and this week I've made two cards using this little mask here. I was using this for my A to Z on F for foils, and when we had our foils I punched out using our daisy punch. Here's our daisy punch from Stampin' Up, and I just punched out from my sheet of foil a little daisy. And a couple of days ago I did a video using the daisy, and now we're going to use the negative, so the area on which we cut out the daisy. Okay, so here we go. First of all, to make this card you're going to need your base card, and really it can be pretty much any size you want. I happen to have chosen a 6x4 because it fits nicely into our large envelopes, and I have then cut a piece of Whisper White which is 1/4 inch smaller. So if it was 6, it's now 5 3/4, and where it was 4, it's now 3 3/4. So this is just 1/4 inch smaller than my card. That's all we need. It's just really doesn't matter. You can choose your size and your shape, because it's a smallish daisy. It's going to go on whether it's a bit smaller or a bit bigger, in fact. Okay, so those are the two we need. So let's start with the card, and we're going to do the very simplest thing. First of all, we're just going to if I could pop it open, we're going to use crumb cake because that matches rather nicely. That matches rather nicely with the card that we're going to put this on, and all I'm going to do is put my little greeting in the corner. So very thankful, and that will now match very nicely with and tone very nicely with the crumb cake card that I've used behind. Okay, and that's all I need for the background of the card, so I'm going to put that to one side and we'll come back to it in a minute. We're now going to just make if I bring the original back, we're going to make this lovely ribbon, really. You could do this card very happily with just an ordinary fabric ribbon, but I really love this punch and it makes most beautiful ribbons. So first of all, I'm just going to stamp. I've got to make sure it's nicely butted up. Once I've done that, I just stamp, and then I push it to one side, and as I push it through I line it up here so that all the silvery bits are in the right places. So if that was like that, you can see that there's some of the gold and the silver, the grey and the silver show, whereas when I do it like that, it's only the silver that show. And because of that, I know this is going to be in the right place, and so on and so on. And I'm going to just punch a nice long piece of paper ribbon or card ribbon, and I'm using the Daffodil Delight. Yeah, there we go. Ooh, there we go, lots and lots and lots of little bits. Let's just swish those out of the way. So here's our little ribbon. I'm going to take it off from where it is, and this is going to wrap around this card. And in fact, having made this, I love it, but I wish I'd put the ribbon just a tiny bit further down. So on this one, I'm going to just place it a tiny bit further down, and we'll compare them at the end and see which we like best. So I've placed it in, and I'm just going to wrap it around the sides like that, and I'm going to secure it using a little bit of tear tape, and I'm just going to put the tear tape across. Okay, now you could use a piece of sellotape if you like, but as we have tear tape and I'm going to be using tear tape for other things, it works perfectly fine like that. Okay, and that just holds it in place for us. Okay, now I'm not going to attach it here because actually when I put the daisy down, that will hold the whole thing in place anyway. Right, so that can go to one side. Now we need to do our actual daisy. So here's our daisy, and we're going to use this lovely punch available at gillyhunt.com. Here it is, and we're going to do one flirty flamingo daisy. So here is our flirty flamingo daisy. One Daffodil Delight daisy. Let's make sure it's totally lined up. Ready? Okay, and we're then going to take that to one side, ready for the next one, but we're going to colour it first because the top one wants to be this lovely bi-coloured effect. So we've got our bottom two layers. We've got our base one, which is yellow, our next one, which is the Flirty Flamingo, and now we want this lovely bi-coloured one on the top. So here we go. This is how we do it. We're going to take a scrap of white, and we're just going to make sure it's a big enough scrap that we can definitely punch one out. Yes, we can, so don't worry. Okay, and now we're going to go back to, do you remember where we'd punched out from a piece of foil card our daisy? Now we're using foil card because it will resist the ink. So we're going to put that down, and if you're very uncomfortable about holding it down, you can always put a little bit of washi tape or removable tape to hold it in place, but I'm quite happy to hold it down. So famous last words, this is where I mess it up. And I'm bringing in some Melon Mambo and some Daffodil Delight. Now I tried this with the Flirty Flamingo, but because the yellow and the pink are going to blend and mix, I find it's nicer with the Melon Mambo. It just gives a slightly sharper, stronger effect. So we've got Daffodil Delight, and all I've done is just dabbed a bit of the pad upside down onto the blocks. And I've got a dauber, and I'm going to just absorb all of this lovely ink into my dauber. And as I said in my previous video, don't forget to give it a good swirl round so that you've got no bits of colour that have just sort of gone into one part of that. So that's now well and truly stocked up with ink, and here comes my Melon Mambo, and I'm going to do exactly the same with that. Okay, there we go. And all I'm going to do with the first one is I'm going to come from the end, so making sure I've got hold of both the bottom and the top layer. I'm just going to stroke inwards like this, and I'm going to just create this lovely Daffodil Delight. It's such a sunny yellow. I love this. Now spring is on the way. I love this. I've got daffodils just this very colour in my hedgerow, and they're so cheery. There we go. So I've now just used yellow on every single little bit of it. And now all I'm going to do is the very tips. So I'm going to start just outside, just off the page. I'm trying to do this so you can see it. And then I'm just going to flick on. Okay, can you see that? I'm just trying to do it on its side a little bit so that you can see it. Okay, and we're just going to flick the top. Okay. And again, on each of the tips. And then depending on whether I think that's dark enough or not, I'm going to just go around and just darken up the very tip itself. Okay, and I think that's going to look lovely. And then for last but not least, I'm just going to put a little blob in the centre to give it a little bit of that pinkiness in the middle. And then I'm going to take it off, and oh, how lovely, look at that. I love doing this because when you open it and reveal it, you go, wow. And that was so simple. And then of course all I have to do is very carefully line this up, and this is where if I was not underneath the camera I could probably line it up better, so I'll do my very best to line it up. But unfortunately, having to have this right under the camera means I can't have my nose right on top of it, so I can only sort of see whether it's lined up or not. Oh, it's not too bad. Okay, there we go, and that will now go on top to make our lovely blended colours. And can you see how, although this is Melon Mambo, it goes beautifully with the Flirty Flamingo because it's got the yellowiness from the Daffodil Delight mixed with it. Okay, so it's a perfect mix. So let's put the whole thing together because this is really simple. So there's our base card, there's our top that we've put our greeting and our ribbon on. So let's stick some tear tape. I was trying to think what it was called there. How many times have I used tear tape and I still went, ooh, what is it? Is it sellotape? No, it's jolly well not sellotape, it's tear tape, which is tons better. Okay, and as usual, I'm going to just ease the corners. Let's see if I can get my fingers underneath it. There we go. And this one too. And remember, you only do 2 little corners, because now you can put it onto your base card and you can just wiggle it about until you get it just where you want it. And that way you stand much better chance of getting it centred. And you'll do even better because you won't be underneath the camera. So there we go, I've got it just slightly to one side. But okay, and now all I'm going to do is use a little bit of glue, and it's going to be the wet glue because that's just a nice easy way of doing it. And I'm going to do on the back of my yellow, that's if I can just get this going. Very occasionally it just clogs if I've had it open and I've been working all day, which is what I have been doing. And I'm sure you've seen me do this before, but I have a little opened up paper clip that fits just perfectly, and if I give it a good up and down a couple of times, it will just break any little membrane that's formed of glue. Hopefully that should start hooting out. Yes, there we go. Ooh, in fact, it started coming out too fast because I squeezed it too hard. There we go, we don't want quite as much as that, so let's just take that off. And I'm going to put this one here and stick that down. So the bottom one I'm sticking quite strongly down because I want just a nice base. And on this one, which is the Flirty Flamingo, I'm just going to give it a tiny dip around the edges and leave a little bit looser around those edges. And I'm going to slightly offset it. Okay, and the last one, I'm only going to do the centre. So I'm only going to do that little central bit so that that's even looser, and so it kind of is able to, if I want to just flick it with my fingers, I could just loosen it and it'll look lovely and loose. And I'm just going to twiddle it until it's kind of nicely spaced. And last but not least, I'm going to add another couple of little dots into the centre, just tiny dots, because this is on a sticky back anyway. And this is one of our faceted gems, so it's already got a sticky glue on the back, which works perfectly fine, but I like to just have a tiny drop of glue to make sure it's utterly stuck. And there you go, so very thankful. Thanks for watching, bye bye.